We're four friends who live across the globe
and share a love of Bon Appétit's YouTube channel.
So we came together to bring you our thoughts on what BA serves up.
And try our hands at recreating their dishes.
Welcome to Bon Appétit!
Hey, it's Justine.
And it's me, Meg.
Oh, it's just the two of us.
Just the two of us.
Copyright, no. Yeah, so welcome back to Bon Appétit. Our other hostesses are not with us today. I'd say for stress-related reasons. We are in a pandemic, so...
I mean, I just don't understand what there is to be stressed about. You know, they did have an episode, just the two of them before, so I feel like it's all evening out.
It's true, you're right. It's cool. We'll get through it. Yeah, I mean, like, we always say, like, anytime you just need a break or whatever, do whatever's best for yourself first, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Same to you, listener. Well, I'm going to ask you, Meg, have you been cooking anything lately?
I am preparing to cook things, so I have to give a big thank you to my parents. They listened to our last recap episode, and they heard me pining for that sea salt club soda. And I mentioned in that episode that they used Jacobsen salt from Jacobsen Salt Company in Oregon, which there was a whole It's Alive episode about. Anyway, my parents heard the episode, and they sent me this very nice goodie bag from Jacobsen Sea Salt, which included sea salt caramels and finishing salt, and also Jacobsen's furikake. And that's that Japanese-inspired topping that has seaweed, sesame seeds, salt, sugar. And upon seeing this furikake, I realized that I do have all of the ingredients to make Spam musubi. And Elise Inamine, who is BA's digital restaurant editor, has a Spam musubi recipe. So I plan to make that. Hopefully I can report back on that on the next episode. And my parents also sent me 2 packets of yeast. So
Ooh.
I know, I'm so excited. I'm going to make BA's focaccia just like literally everyone else on the planet. Shout out to the reductress for making the quiz. Have you made the Bon Appetit focaccia yet, or do you live with someone you can fuck?
Feel seen.
Yeah. So those are my big plans for Bon Appetit recipes in the future. What about you?
I have not been cooking, baking so much. Oh, wait, did I bake something? I made some no-bake cookies because we had a heat wave here in LA. So any of the plans that I did want to bake some nice things, you know, our first round of heat wave, I was just like, I'm not turning on the oven.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
yeah, I made some no-bake cookies. I did acquire some giant lemons, though, so I need to make some things with lemon. I mean, like, they're huge. They're like softball-sized lemons, and I have 3 of them. So I need to make things with lemons.
Lemonade.
Sounds good.
Very literal turning lemons into lemonade scenario.
Yeah. Why didn't I think of that? Well, okay. So now we can get into the show where we recap the Bon Appetit videos. There were a lot of recipe videos and shorter videos in this round, which I was happy with.
Yes, me too.
It's speaking of our co-host stress, it is like we're still working during this whole thing. So sometimes we actually have to do the jobs of multiple people when we work at home. So life has not been the easiest.
Yeah. There's not suddenly a whole lot of extra free time in my life. I mean, you know, I'm not doing social engagements, but that's pretty much the extra free time I've found during all this. So,
yeah. Well, on the menu for today's episode, we have Sohla makes cinnamon date sticky buns from the test kitchen. Molly makes sour cream and onion biscuits from the home kitchen. Brad makes pickled onions at home. It's alive at home. Claire makes 3 kinds of homemade pasta from the home kitchen. Every show the test kitchen is watching, test kitchen talks at home. Sohla makes lamb and scallion dumplings from the home kitchen. Pro chefs make 9 kinds of pantry sandwiches. Test Kitchen Talks at Home. Molly and Adam make chicken parmesan from the home kitchen. The BA Test Kitchen Variety Show, a live benefit for World Central Kitchen, and Pro Chefs improved boxed macaroni and cheese, 8 methods. Test Kitchen Talks at Home. 10 videos, including a variety show.
A 2-hour and 35-minute long variety show.
A whole Marvel movie. It's BA Test Kitchen the movie.
It really was. It was the whole cinematic universe.
Whew. Okay, so we're going to get started with Sohla Makes Cinnamon Date Sticky Buns.
I think this recipe looks great. It's the cover recipe for the April issue. Sohla calls it a level 10 bun. I do love a good sticky bun, and I do love the date move, as I think Brad called it. And again, Sohla's just such a superstar. She's so knowledgeable. When she was explaining how the baking soda was there to counterbalance the acidity of the buttermilk and to make the dough therefore more alkaline, which led to better browning, it's like, that's amazing. I never would have thought of that. But apparently that is what you think about when you test and create recipes.
Yeah, she makes this recipe seem so easy.
Even though it is the most difficult recipe in their basically baking challenge, it didn't look that hard to my eyes. Of course, there's the yeast, which is a little bit finicky, and there's a couple of stages of proofing, but I think it looks pretty manageable.
Yeah, I'm like, I could make this. The only thing is, I'm like, I don't have a cast iron skillet.
I don't think I have a skillet that would be big enough or deep enough for this either, but I think that your Dutch oven would work.
My Dutch oven.
Yep, because I was considering making this as well, and the same thought went through my mind, and I was like, wait, I could use my Dutch oven. So
Ooh.
I think that would work for you.
Yeah. So at the top of the episode, we got to see the cute couple from the BA crew having their date at the Cinnabon.
Mm-hmm.
But my question is, what the heck is a director of cinematography versus a director of photography?
I think only you can answer that, Justine, between the two of us.
I'm saying I don't know, because it's either if you're A, a camera operator, B, someone who decides what the cinematic look is and decides lots of decisions, basically, you're either known as a cinematographer or a director of photography. And they are the same thing. But I don't know what's happening over in the BA test kitchen.
I couldn't tell you.
Oh, she said something that I thought was fun. Dough doesn't want to be a square, so you have to tell it what to do.
Yeah, she says you can't let the dough boss you around. I feel like this is Sohla's version of the dough smells fear.
Yeah, except Sohla's not afraid.
Yeah, no, she is not. She shows no fear to the dough. She makes that dough her bitch.
Yeah, go Sohla.
We discussed this in, I think, a brownie recipe, maybe. I'm not sure, but we talked about middle piece or edge piece. I'm always middle piece, especially with sticky buns.
I knew you were going to bring this up. I was like, I'm going to write this down, but I'm pretty sure this is a Meg question of like, which piece would you take?
So which piece would you take?
I would take an edge piece because I like that crunch.
I really like the soft chewiness. Sohla calls herself a monster for going straight for the middle, but I say that is the right move.
I do like it that she was like, I made it. It's mine. I'm eating the piece I want.
I absolutely agree that chef's choice. If you make it, you get to choose the first piece.
I also like Hansi's explanation of how Sohla talks, because he was like, oh, you're not saying it's terrible. You're saying it's all right, which means it's great by Sohla standards.
She does seem to have very exacting standards for herself. And I loved Hansi's mustard yellow sweater.
Okay, now moving on from the test kitchen to the home kitchen, Molly makes sour cream and onion biscuits. Now, you made these.
Yes, I made these. LJ also made this recipe. Go check out our Instagram stories because LJ has documented her process of making the sour cream and onion biscuits. I think they turned out great. I think they're delicious and easy to make. I've never made biscuits with sour cream before. It's always been buttermilk that I've used to add acidity. But sour cream is an interesting alternative because it still has the sourness, obviously. Very creamy. I think it was great in these biscuits. Very flaky, very tall layers. I would recommend that anyone make these.
Yeah, I like how, she's going into like all the flake techniques again, like the pinching of the butter, the layering the doughs for lamination.
I thought this was a very informative video for sure, like that in a lot of ways, because she also explained the proper way to measure flour so that it doesn't get compacted. And I'm honestly a little surprised that they don't bring this up more often in videos. They seem to mention it very seldom. I guess they just assume that that's sort of baking 101. But as we've discussed on the podcast, you can't assume what everyone's base knowledge is.
Yeah, and I think they went over that when they were back in the test kitchen. They were doing Instagram stories. Sarah Jampel was doing like, here are basic, when they first started like the Basically Baking Challenge, and she's like, here are basic things you should know. And one of them was like scooping the flour.
I should have watched more of the Basically Baking instructional stuff because I bet they did have good basic tips like that. And I also liked how Molly explained in this video that the butter needs to be cold. You need to keep it cold, and it should be cold when it goes in to cook, because she explains that it melts as it cooks, which creates steam, and the steam is what forces the layers upward and creates these nice, tall, flaky layers. So I thought that explanation was great, too. They don't always explain in that level of detail why certain things happen during the baking process.
Another thing I liked about this video was the aspect of Molly not having certain things and substituting, which I think is great for these from the home kitchen videos. And I think we see it again later when Sohla's dumpling. She's like, I don't have this, but I've got this. She's like, I don't have a pastry brush because, like, who does?
Yeah. I'm really appreciating this, too, because even though they do strive to make every recipe really easily creatable for the home chef, we don't have every single little gadget. Sometimes people can't get some of the stranger ingredients that they ask for. So yeah, I'm really liking that aspect of, well, how to improvise during these times of scarcity.
Yeah, and I think it shows, especially for like someone like Amanda. I feel like Amanda, when she first started cooking with us, immediately if she didn't have something or she had to substitute, like she felt like a failure almost. So it's like, no, see, Molly, she didn't have flaky salt. She's just using other salts, so.
I think a little bit is having to establish that confidence as well, where you understand that this is similar enough to this that it can work as a substitution. And I do think that's something that comes with experience, which obviously Molly has in spades. But yeah, as we're doing this podcast, I think that all of us are learning more and more what works and why it works or doesn't work in a recipe.
Yeah. Now we got to talk about Papa Boz.
Doug Boz. The highlight of the video.
Yeah, totally.
He was such a dad. It was adorable. I liked how he tried to kind of trick Molly by being like, oh no, there's so much flour on my apron. Guess I just need to take this off. And then he's wearing the Molly shirt.
So cute.
And he was concealing why there were only 5 biscuits.
I'm sure
or
she
6
knew.
Biscuits. Yeah, it was really cute. You could tell she was on to him and that she didn't buy his explanation that he was like, oh, I just like really big biscuits. Because obviously they would have been huge if he had used the same yield and just made 6 instead of 8. So that was pretty adorable.
Yeah, that was cute. It was cute.
I was thinking, although I wouldn't want this to come off as mean, but maybe we should have a bracket Twitter poll of best spouse/parent/pet.
Oh, they're all great.
I know, they're all wonderful. I love them all. Oh, speaking of it being hard to find some ingredients, I would really like them at some point in one of these videos to show how you can very easily regrow scallions. I was kind of hoping Molly would do it in this video because she cut off the roots and pretty much you just have to cut those off and dunk them in water and let the green part grow out.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I feel like a lot of BA recipes are using scallions and green onions now. And I'm like, you either buy a lot and then you have them or like...
Yeah.
Now on to Brad makes pickled onions at home. It's alive at home.
Well, speaking of adorable family members, Brad's sons are so cute.
They are cute, and you can just, they're little chips off the old block.
Oh my gosh, they are entirely. I love how Griff, I believe it is, sneakily puts the pearl onion in the jar and Brad pretends not to notice. And he's like, what are you laughing at? What are you laughing at?
Oh, pretends? He totally didn't notice.
I mean, I don't think he noticed at first because his back was turned, but then I think he did notice and was just playing along. But or he could have not noticed. It is Brad after all.
It is Brad.
And he calls Griff a little Delaney in training in terms of adorableness or annoyingness. Not adorableness. I don't think Brad finds Delaney particularly adorable.
Totally does. Yeah. And also like the mad parenting skills of like children come around with like their hands and then just Brad like scoops up knives, like
those dad reflexes. Although he did consider giving them a paring knife, but then he quickly reconsidered it. He said when they were a little bit older, when they could help in the kitchen.
Optical delusion.
Such a good Bradism. And it's not a proper It's Alive without a dog cameo, so we get to see Hunsy's dog, Riley, briefly.
Oh, yeah, not quiet on set.
Not quite. Wearing an adorable scarf.
Aw. I liked the graphic of Brad being a witch with the Chiron saying, flying high, defying gravity.
To which Brad says, men can be witches, right? Be whatever you want to be, Brad. I love the little callback to Vinny. He says Vin in terms of vinegar, but then the little Hunsy editorial pop-up says, no, it's Stiff Steve. So little shout out to Vinny.
I don't think I got that when I watched it. I was like,
It was really cute. Yeah, he's like, oh, we've got this going, Vin. And yeah, Hunsy jumps in and says, nope.
Way to go, Hunsy. Still concerned about Hunsy's mental well-being via Twitter.
Oh, for sure, for sure. He pointed out how long it took him to make the little band grooving in the cabinet, and he seemed like he really wanted some kudos for that.
Yeah. I mean, when we get to the BA live show, there are a lot of roll-in packages in the live show, so you know that someone, the editorial team had been working on that while also doing, their daily shows and work. So the editorial team has definitely been busy, and I would like them to have a vacation.
Speaking of editing, Hunsy did a little callback to Garla, which I appreciated.
The garlic can.
A little bit terrifying.
Yeah, Garla is scary.
Oh, and also they made a little joke about having an It's Alive guided meditation. And that just made me sad because I would absolutely listen to an It's Alive guided meditation. I love guided meditations. So please actually do that. That would be wonderful.
Totally. Well, what did you think of the end product then?
I mean, in general, I like pickled onions a lot. I like pickled purple onions. I like pickled white onions. Seems simple, seems easy. It's definitely a Brad recipe. I would prefer something a little bit more refined that would tell me exactly what would be a good spice to put in. Of course, Brad is like, oh yeah, add whatever you want. Put some sumac, put a pinch of this, put pink peppercorns. And I'm not at the point yet where I feel comfortable improvising an entire recipe like that. So I don't know, maybe some very targeted suggestions for what to put in with the onions.
Yeah, I'd say probably look up like an actual recipe for pickled onions, and then you could be like, well, here's the base of what'll be good. Maybe I'll just throw in one of the things that Brad said to make it my own.
Yeah, maybe some sumac just to make him happy.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're moving over to Claire's house. Claire makes 3 kinds of homemade pasta from the home kitchen. I do like that if you're following along on Instagram, Claire, is actually on Instagram now. And she did learn and show us on Instagram how to make pasta. Like, that was like one of the very first things. She was on Instagram being like, look, guys, I actually know how to do this now. I'm learning it. And now we have an episode.
Yeah, now that I've seen fresh pasta being made a few times now through Bon Appétit, it does seem easier and more approachable. I've always thought of it in my mind as something really difficult to do. I've never made homemade pasta to my recollection, but I do have a KitchenAid mixer, so I'd like to get the pasta attachment and maybe give it a whirl, I suppose.
So I know how challenging it would be for them to record themselves, because it's not just they're just recording into their phone. They are recording into their phone, but they're also like wearing mic packs. So it's like it is a whole like crazy synchronous deal. I like how we see that Claire didn't record her original ricotta making, and of course blames it on like, well, it's not there. They checked, it's not there. Which I've heard a lot in my like 13 years of post-production.
Well, I think that's definitely Claire, because if you look at the variety show special, she always is like, well, no, I did it this way, and oh, you guys said I could do this. It's never Claire's fault, guys.
Yeah.
According to her, at least.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing she did say is that she really likes the process of making pasta. And on our very first introduction episode, I said that I honestly am not really the type of person who necessarily enjoys the process of cooking. It's more like I enjoy having the final product. So if the main draw of pasta making truly is in the process, I'm not sure if it appeals to me as much. But I love to eat pasta.
I can't believe you remember you said that.
Well, I mean, it's how I feel, so it's not like it's really remembering. It's just how I feel all the time.
I don't remember what I say like 2 days ago.
Yeah, Claire also says that this is a time when people are finding comfort in carbohydrates, and there's not anything wrong with that. And I agree 1000%.
Yes, that's another thing. Like, I feel like I've been dealing with feeling stressed out about making the right dinner, making, you know, the perfect thing, and not like that it has to be perfect, but just like making the right decision of what I have in the fridge or whatever. And I feel like lately in the past week, I've definitely excused myself being like, no, this is giving me stress. I'm just going to make frozen food.
For sure. Especially the stress for me is I feel like I have to predict way farther in the future as far as ingredients go than I ever did before. It's like, well, if I use the milk for this dish, will I be able to have it for this dish that I'm planning to make 3 days from now? Yeah, again, with the scarcity, it's a little bit more thought into each meal than I would have put in previously.
Yeah, and it's stressful, so I just opted not to make things.
Yeah, you know, like we said, gave yourself a break. Also, I want to shout out the Bon Appétit subreddit, although I wish they wouldn't have pointed this out. At a minute 25, you can very clearly see a little bug crawl into Claire's dough. You can see a bug go from her counter into the flour, and I have to assume that there is a bug in one of her pastas. A minute 25, go check it out, everyone.
Where are the cats when you need them?
Yeah, we need some bug-eating cats.
Okay.
I guess she's scared them with the spray bottle.
On that disturbing note, let's move on. Next up, we've got every show the Test Kitchen is watching. Test Kitchen Talks at Home. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so is this the first video we've had that is absolutely 100% not related to food or cooking at all?
Because whenever they talked about movies and shows before, they were cooking movies and shows.
Exactly. It was about kitchen scenes. It was about home cooking scenes.
I would say you're right.
I think it's interesting because it's definitely a departure, but it was also really fun. And also like the previous videos where they were watching movies and TV shows. We like pop culture here on Bon Appétit. We like to discuss pop culture. And again, we like the idea that, hey, if my cultural tastes align with one of these chefs, maybe we could totally be friends in real life, because that's how it works, of course.
Yeah, I like this video as like a relaxer. Like, we don't have to worry about thinking about what techniques are in movies and shows. Like, let's just chill out, talk about movies and stuff. Great.
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants to recommend their shows or talk about their favorite shows. And I thought this video was fun to watch because it was interesting for me to see whether everyone's lists match my idea of their personalities.
Mm-hmm. How'd that go?
Yeah, did you play along? I played along.
Not really. I was just along for the ride.
So I got 5 out of 8,
Wow.
which is the most that they got. However, I had the advantage of process of elimination, where it seemed like to me
They didn't.
they didn't. They submitted all of their answers at the same time. So if Rick's videos had come up first, there's no way I would have guessed that as Rick's choice. But since he was last and literally no one else was an option, then by process of elimination, of course, it was Rick. So I feel like my 5 out of 8 maybe isn't as impressive as it seems.
I know Claire loves Buffy because she's said that before on the show.
Yes, I knew Buffy's was hers right away. And she's also said on Bon Appetit that she loves trashy reality TV. So the Bravo was a big hint for sure. And for some reason, as soon as Frasier came up, I thought that seems like such a Chris show. It just screams Chris for some reason.
It so is just to see him like explain it and like get really into it. You're like, oh yeah, Chris.
I just imagine that he would fit within the world of Frasier as well. And Mission Impossible was on that list, and we know that Chris is a huge Tom Cruise stan. So.
Yes, that's right. I love how like nobody got. They're like, Brad's not watching Little Women.
Oh, Brad's list was so great. I actually loved Brad's list, and I loved that everyone underestimated his his choice of movie and TV show.
I love when they're always like, they think they know me, but they don't.
That was great juxtaposition because he said, especially Morocco, and then it went to Chris saying, I thought I knew you, Brad. Seems like maybe Brad's the one who knows Chris and not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. So Chris and Molly won.
Yes, they got 5 out of 8. Claire was very salty about only getting 1 right. There's that competitiveness. Oh, I wanted to point out that I was really happy that they didn't include everyone in this video. As we talked about in our last recap, we thought that these at-home videos were way too long, a little bit protracted in their premise because they were showing every single chef in every single video. But this one, we had 8, 9, I believe, not the full 13.
Yeah.
And that's also the case for a couple other of these videos.
Yeah, I think all the rest of these batches, they have not been including everybody.
Which is a big relief.
I think they listened to our show.
Obviously, it's the only answer.
Obviously, because they filmed these, a month ago.
No. They listened to our episode 2 weeks ago and made some quick changes on the fly.
That's right. Okay, moving on to Sohla makes lamb and scallion dumplings from the home kitchen, where anything can be your dump.
You can dump anything. Stick anything in your dumps.
Sohla. So great.
Good old Sohla. Something I thought that was really funny about this video is that, as she said, you can really put anything in your dumplings. It's not so much about the ingredients, it's about the technique. But then she doesn't really demonstrate the technique of crimping. At first, she's just like, and then you just do it.
I think it's one of those things she doesn't know how to explain it. She just does it.
I thought that was pretty funny, though. Yeah, I'm sure it's second nature to her, but she is such a good instructor in every other video I've seen her in. So I guess it is just one of those things where it's like second nature to her. It is difficult to explain. You just kind of have to do it, maybe. But I thought it was kind of funny that she's like, it's all about the technique. And then was basically like, you're on your own.
Well, if you watch Claire's like soup dumpling video, I'm pretty sure she gets into it.
I mean, I guess there's an ideal number of crimps even. I can't remember the number. It seems rather difficult, actually.
Was it 13?
Something like that. It's a lot, is all I remember.
But shout out to the Trader Joe's dumplings at the end there. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, Sohla has shouted out these dumplings many times. There was one column or editorial or something where she said that she practically lived off of Trader Joe's pork gyoza for years. So I was glad to see them make an appearance in this video.
Yeah, they got the vegetable gyozas.
Shout out to her husband, Ham. I'm really liking all these little cameos, but he seemed like a real nice guy helping prepare meals for hospital workers. That's pretty awesome.
Aww.
And then he helped Sohla crimp up some dumplings.
They're not perfect, but they're mine, and I made them with my hands.
That was so cute. This instantly reminded me of Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. This is my family. I found it all on my own. It's little and broken, but still good.
Still good.
Still good. That's how I feel like these dumplings are.
Aw. What do you think of the skirt, which I've never heard of?
This was interesting because unless I'm missing something, the skirt is basically any juices that run out of the dumplings. It's the vinegar she added, and I guess any cornstarch that maybe runs off of the wrappers.
There was, she added flour, she added cornstarch, she added rice wine vinegar. I don't know what else. Yeah, it was super hard kind of to follow because I was like, I'm like, what's happening? What is it made out of?
Exactly. I had the same question because it doesn't seem like there is much to it. And she likened it to a salt and vinegar potato chip. So I'm guessing it's maybe just a crispy, salty, vinegary little crisp. And if that's all it is, then great. I love salt and vinegar chips. I would probably like that as well. I don't know. It seems a little odd because it almost seems like in another recipe that would be something that you would scoop off,
Yeah.
Or not serve.
It's just like fried flour, cornstarch. Like there's no nutritional value you're getting from this.
I do like how she mentions it adds a textural quality, how it adds a crispiness where you have the chewiness of the dumpling. So yeah, if I ever made dumplings or, Trader Joe's dumplings, which is the more likely scenario, then I would definitely try to get the skirt going.
Yeah, try it out. And I like the little end tag where they're like, how did you learn this? She's like, I learned it from the internet. I don't have a story about my mom teaching me. Like, yeah.
Sohla, I think, is such the ideal millennial, right?
Yeah.
She's so millennial. Elder millennial. So you're always geeking out about video production stuff. I have to do my word English language geeking out. They have a brief discussion about cleave being a verb. It is definitely a verb, and it's a really fun one because it has contradictory definitions. This is what's called a contronym. So one definition is to split or divide, which is what you would be doing in cooking. And cleaving also means to join or to adhere closely. So if you cleave to your partner, it means you're like hugging them close, So
wow.
Cleave is really interesting. Contronym, that's your new word for the day.
Okay, English major.
I'll just say that every time you bring up a video production thing. Okay, video editor.
Touche. Next, we have pro chefs make 9 kinds of pantry sandwiches. Test kitchen talks at home.
Once again, thank you for not including all 13 chefs. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Although there were 9 of them in this video, which I felt like, that's still, more than half. I could have gone for 6 to 7 people, maybe.
It was the longest video.
Mm-hmm.
That chickpea salad sandwich, I was very excited because I make a chickpea sandwich on the reg for lunch. Just like this, except it's more like Claire's tuna melt because I'm making like a chickpea tuna sandwich. So it has the mayo, mustard, relish, tahini, lemon juice, like all that sort of stuff. I was like, that's like what I do. Except when Claire put in dill, I was like, oh, I gotta add dill to my sandwich.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that was something I really liked about this video as well. There were a lot of sandwiches that I tend to make occasionally or regularly. So I liked the little tips about how to make them slightly different. Like I make egg salad sandwiches quite often, and Molly's egg salad sandwich, she used olive oil and lemon and fresh herbs, which sometimes I put those things in kind of depending on what's on hand, but it was nice to have a little reminder. I almost never put olive oil in just because I don't usually think of it, but that might be something that I try, or putting capers in. I love capers. I just don't usually have them. But since I do make egg salad pretty frequently, maybe that's just something I should have on hand.
don't think I like capers.
Well, they're salty, which is why I like them.
Yeah. I'm gonna pass.
I loved Christina's bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. This I would definitely make. Her egg folding technique was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I think that she should get one of those square tamago pans that they have specifically for making Japanese style omelets. I think that that would be perfect for her to make and fold her egg for her breakfast sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
I also think Harley Quinn would approve.
Yeah, I love that she made just like classic bacon, egg, and cheese. And I was like, that's the sandwich we want in comfort
Yeah,
times.
absolutely. A nice soft vehicle for cheese and egg sounds wonderful.
Okay, so Brad, like, making up as he goes along.
Of course.
He's just gone like full It's Alive. Like, he's like, I don't believe in rules or anything. You can't. He's like, I'm the star. I do what I want. Like, this is what we're going to do. Here's
Exactly.
my elk meat.
Here's my elk meat. Yeah, you know, like everyone has in their freezer.
Yeah.
It was very odd to hear him say fermentation station outside of an It's Alive episode and not have the toot toot sound effect.
Yeah. Like the little graphic, Venmo Brad for pickles. And then on his Instagram this week, he's just like, stop Venmoing me for pickles. I don't remember saying it.
Yeah, he's like, please don't. I'm not going to send you pickles.
He's like, I don't know why this is. And I'm just like, Brad, you don't watch the videos.
I hope someone tells him why everyone is suddenly Venmoing him for pickles.
Okay, so another production mess up. Delaney messed up his audio when
He did.
switched camera. Like I said, it's hard. That's why I'm like, I really appreciate what these guys are doing because it is super hard.
Yeah. And also, Delaney points out that he has recruited his little sister, Claire, to be his camera person. And he says now we have 2 Claires in the Bon Appetit cinematic universe.
Yep.
So I love when they reference the fandom, when they know.
Okay, but what was up with that 90s shirt Delaney was wearing? I was like, are you wearing the clothes you left at your parents' house?
I mean, that seems like a distinct possibility now that you say it.
I was just so distracted of like, oh, I remember when guys wore shirts like this.
Gotta say, I didn't notice, to be honest.
I mean, it just could have been a Delaney shirt, but I don't know.
Once again, Emil is totally weird. He points out his single painted fingernail, but does not explain why, which it's fine. You do you. And then, of course, he has a giant basket of ramps. I don't know who else I would expect to have that.
on his Instagram, he went foraging in the woods. They had so many ramps. So many.
Ramps all the way down.
Yeah. Okay, well, do you want to quickly talk about, after this video, there was a video for a Campbell's soup competition, and that got taken down?
Oh yeah, let's briefly talk about that. So this is a series of competition videos that up until now have been living on BA Videos, which is a section of Bon Appetit's website, which sometimes has content that they don't show on YouTube. So I actually checked out this show a couple weeks ago and honestly was a little bit bored by it, so did not finish watching it. So like Justine was just saying, it's a competition show. It's sponcon. It's sponsored by Campbell's. They have contestants who are Bon Appetit fans, and they have them competing after they've learned some basic techniques from the chefs. The chefs in this case being Christina, Rick, and Sohla. So it's not what we expect from the YouTube content. It's a straight up competition show. It's more like what you'd expect to see on Top Chef or something like that. Of course, the personalities are perfectly lovely and everything like that. But, you know, it seems like we usually go to Bon Appetit for non-competition type cooking videos. But if that's what you're looking for, these videos still do live on at BA Videos on the website. But yeah, they posted this video late on a Thursday night, which is odd.
Yeah.
That's never when they post videos. Maybe it was an accident. Probably was an accident. Something very similar happened before where a hands and pans video was posted. Again, it was a video that was and still is on the BA Videos website. Seems like maybe some wires got crossed somewhere.
Yeah. And I wanted to shout out a couple of our listeners who then contacted us to tell us how much they did not like this video. So shout out to TB and Mackenzie for pointing out there's no flavor. It's not good. Where's the personalities? It's not what they go to BA for.
Yeah, we appreciated hearing that feedback, and it was really funny too because everyone was very apologetic, like, I'm so sorry, BA, I love you. I just want something different and better.
Okay, so moving on to our regularly scheduled programming. We have Molly and Adam make chicken parmesan from the home kitchen.
I'm going to continue with what I said last time, that I don't hate Adam. I actually kind of like Adam, so...
He was kind of adorable in this. There was him sliding across the floor.
Oh my gosh. I love the Molly and Adam dynamic because the last video they were in, I mentioned that it felt like a mom and a kid. In this case, Molly was the mom and trying to show her kid hold his hand step by step through the cooking process. Where in this video, I feel like the roles have flipped and Adam is now the trying to be cool dad and Molly is the teenage daughter who is just so embarrassed by everything he does.
Exactly.
When he first slides across the floor, risky business style, and she's just like, cool.
She's like, I can't believe you did that.
You can hear the eye rolling even though she doesn't literally roll her eyes.
Did you also, when the video started, when she was like, let's just take a collective breath, did you also like do a deep breathe? Oh, so good. I was like, yes.
See, that could be on the Bon Appetit guided meditation. Do a breathing exercise.
Yeah, they'll say it. I'll do it. Like, love it.
Exactly. I like that they developed this recipe together. I checked if you go to the recipe online, it does say by Molly Baz and Adam Rappaport. And previously, I think they were both Adam's recipes in the other videos they had been presenting. So I liked that it was more of a collaboration between these two. I thought the recipe itself looked wonderful. Actually, really easy. I don't think I've made chicken parm before, but I have made chicken cutlets, and the process seems incredibly similar. Just maybe, you know, the added step of making the sauce.
Yeah. First they were like, this is really complex. It's got all these parts. But then they did it, and I was like, that wasn't... I think I've seen more complex stuff that they've done.
Yeah. And I was actually strangely proud of Adam. I thought he did a good job.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have Molly's in-person help to help him through the recipe.
Yeah, I think they made a good-looking product.
I think so too, for sure. And there was still some good-natured ribbing, which I like between them. And Adam accuses Molly of chunking the onions.
And Molly's exact right amount of salt.
A little salt. She's like triggered that someone would suggest that she only add a little salt.
She's like, no, it's the perfect amount. What are you talking about?
It's like when Gandalf says a wizard is never late. He arrives precisely when he means to. I feel like Molly is a salt wizard. She adds precisely as much salt as she intends to. Oh, should we do a virtual high five to end the recap of this video?
Yeah. Meg and I are going to do a virtual high five. Ready?
Okay.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
It was even better than Claire's and Delaney's.
Okay, I think we'll move on to the Test Kitchen Variety Show.
Okay.
It's so long that, I mean, like, I wrote up just like a bunch of highlights, but, you know, I would encourage everybody to check it out and donate, you know, if they can. But it is like super fun. It is just like watching friends on their Zoom chat. So it was cute. It was a much relief from like my Zoom meetings.
Yeah, I really enjoyed what I saw of this as well, because something that I haven't really liked about the at-home videos, I was finally able to put my finger on it, and it was that we don't get the interaction between everyone. And that is such a huge part of why I love Bon Appetit, and why I'm sure a whole bunch of other people love Bon Appetit, is that we have the personalities and their friendships and their interactions. And I especially loved that about this variety show, because it was all of them interacting. It was them interacting live and unfiltered. So it really did bring back some of that sort of collaborative workplace, hanging out, friendly dynamic that we miss when they're all segregated in their own homes.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a bunch of highlights of all the segments and some of my favorite moments. First off, the intro, cute 90s intro.
So good. I was dying at the intro. I loved that.
Then we had Delaney's cocktail minute.
Uh-huh. I don't know why they didn't call it the Delaney drink drop.
Exactly.
I guess maybe they reserved that for Molly Tries, but...
Claire wearing a three-piece suit.
And Christina wearing her Canadian tuxedo, the denim two-piece.
Amazing. Then we've got the Bon Appetit speed test, which is, of course, a whipped cream competition.
Okay, so this was maybe the most controversial part of the episode. Do you think Andy was robbed? Do you think he really came in third?
I think Claire had it.
It's so hard to say. I feel like I should rewind the tape and look at the footage. Claire definitely turned the bowl over. Even though she didn't turn it over her head, which was technically the rules, it was obvious that she had gotten it to the stiff peaks. So even though she didn't put it over her head, I think it was pretty obvious that she was done before Andy was.
Yeah. I agree. Give it to Claire. Sorry, Andy.
I think so too. I agree.
But Chris killed it. What?
It was like 20 seconds or something. Insane. It took everyone at least an additional minute.
Yeah. Okay. The BA pet show.
I loved the pet show. So before, when Chris had called out to his cat in a previous episode, I thought that he had named their cat Cersei, like from Game of Thrones, but it's Cersei spelled a different way. So maybe not Game of Thrones. I thought maybe he was the biggest Game of Thrones fan.
Emil's pet Roomba with the giant googly eyes and matching tinfoil hat. We have to mention Emil's wearing a tinfoil hat through this whole show.
I think Emil has truly lost his marbles. Excuse you, it's not Roomba, it's Yuffie, the cleaning robot.
Then we had fashionista moments, which were some montage from the shows. We had a BA trivia show where I find that, at first off, Andy misidentified as the most competitive by Molly, who is actually the most competitive.
Which I find so fascinating because I would say Claire is maybe the most competitive, although Molly is very, very competitive as well.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone is competitive.
Yeah, we just don't get Claire in on competitions. She gets the most salty, though.
She does.
Chris won that as well.
Go Chris.
And then we had a montage of all the times in the show they said the F word and shit.
Which we always appreciate on Bon Appetit. We're an explicit podcast.
Then we got a segment from Meme Appetit, behind the meme, where the fellas from Meme Appetit got to chat with each member explaining a particular meme about them.
I love Bon Appetit, but there's nothing worse than explaining a joke. That's the fastest way to kill a joke. I did like it, though, and we love Bon Appetit, and they've just started their own YouTube channel, which we encourage everyone to check out. Meme Appetit
we should
on
recap
YouTube.
them.
Hey, someone should make a Meme Appetit recap podcast.
Then we have burning questions, and they were answering questions that were posted on Instagram. So that was fun because it included everybody all together, including Rhoda.
Rhoda, yay.
Then we had a montage of cutting onions while reading various quote-unquote poetry, including Lucky by Britney Spears and Chris dramatically reading Lord of the Rings. Then we had Brad's greatest moments montage, the fans playing the It's Alive theme. We've got montage of favorite moments from Claire's Innovation Corner, Emil's ideas that were cut, but mostly it's just Emil in a smoking jacket by his fire.
We need a shower thoughts with Emil.
Yeah. Front to back chef with Cosmo, Claire chatting with Ina Garden. How do you say her name?
Ina Gardner? Gardner?
Gart.
You know who we're talking about.
Yeah. And that's really it. And then like this little fun BTS moment at the end where they had to learn how to clip the microphones to themselves. That's it. So let's move on.
Final video,
surprise Saturday video. Pro chefs improve box macaroni and cheese. 8 methods. Test kitchen talks at home. That's a long title.
It is a long title. At first, I was like, no, there's no way that you can improve upon box mac and cheese. It is the perfect food. But I do like the recipes they made. They looked delicious, of course.
Dude, I want to do this, especially Claire. I've got some box mac and cheese. I still have some in my cupboard. I'm like, ooh, those caramelized onions, that fried up panko. I'm like, I can do that. I can do things.
Yeah, Claire's looked great. Add a bunch of cheese, add a bunch of panko. What could possibly go wrong? I also really support her efforts to make her cat Felix into an Instagram star or just a star in general.
Yeah, was she like once Felix gets famous, I can quit my job?
It's like, Claire, you're already famous and you can't quit your job.
Yeah. I like Carla's shout out to nutritional yeast because if you don't have nutritional yeast, you should get some.
Nutritional yeast is great. Also, especially on popcorn, I fully support that.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I thought, hey, she's cheating because she's not using the macaroni. But then it was all totally fine thanks to the little gag with Cosmo where they were pretending to crack their joints while crunching down on macaroni. That was so cute.
That was very cute.
I really liked Chris's arancini. I love arancini in general, and I think it's really smart to use the mac and cheese instead of rice in the middle, which is what I believe is usually inside arancini.
As he calls them, mac balls.
With a Z.
Yeah, exactly.
He gave in to fandom and perhaps peer pressure and synced the clocks on his stove and microwave.
I really like that. I like that Brad pointed out and then he pointed out. I'm like, that's really cool how they're still getting all the comments. Even these days.
We're still reaching them. And apparently Priya and Andy both had a hard time getting the Kraft box. Or maybe they just didn't want to, but they both used Annie's brand box mac and cheese.
That's what I have. Get the non-dairy.
But it doesn't have the Dayglow orange cheese.
That's true. She used the white cheddar, which is like the best.
It is pretty good. But I like that Dayglow orange.
Yeah. I actually found when you could get the Earth Balance variety of box mac and cheese, which I don't know if they make anymore. You can never find them. They have the cheddar. They've got the white cheddar. The white cheddar is the one that tastes more like Easy Mac mac and cheese than the cheddar variety. I don't know why.
Pro tip.
Mm-hmm. Sohla exploded butter again.
I love Sohla. I love her creativity. I don't know if I would eat mac and cheese pancakes.
Especially with that raw cheese packet. Ugh.
Yeah. I feel like it would be very dusty. You know, I feel like I would be inhaling the cheese powder.
Mm-mm.
Andy, once again, in Mystery House. The little side note said the mystery continues.
Yes.
So even the production crew is like, where are you, Andy? I'm sure they know, but they are keeping all of us in suspense.
His green machine. He just made pesto.
He just made pesto. He just sprinkled a little bit of cheese of powder on top. He was totally cheating also.
Mm-hmm.
Most of that cheese powder went into his facial hair instead.
And then on to Goldie.
His dog / napkin.
Oh my God. Chris's dangerous child.
Oh my God. That was freaking me out too. Someone
Yeah.
is going to get an eyeball poked out with that thermometer.
Oh God. I can't believe he just didn't take it away from him. He's just like, you're going to stab something. And it just continues playing. Oh, Chris.
Maybe his dad reflexes aren't as good as Brad's.
Yeah, that was distracting.
Yes, I was honestly a little concerned for those involved.
That's it for recapping. Now that we've done that, Meg, what was your favorite video from this bunch and what dish would you make?
It's hard for me to say between It's Alive and the variety show because I did really like the interactions of the variety show. It was fun. It was friendly. I was able to watch some of it live, so that was fun to be a part of as well. But I know it's very predictable, but I think I have to go with It's Alive. I just love the editing. I love Brad. It's funny. It's Alive is the series that I tend to rewatch most often just because it's the most entertaining for me. So I'm going to pick the It's Alive with the pickled onions. And the recipe I'm most likely to make is the chicken Parmesan. I think it sounds easy, delicious. I just have to, try to source the ingredients. And I already made the sour cream and onion biscuits, so I can't choose those again. But I would recommend the recipe.
Oh, man. I feel like at first I wasn't even thinking of including the variety show because it's like not like a typical video.
Yeah, it's like bonus content. It's not obviously their usually produced content, although it did have all the montages and a lot of thought went into it, obviously.
Yeah. I'd say aside from that, I'm going to pick for my favorite, actually, every show the Test Kitchen is watching, because I found that highly enjoyable.
That was high up for me as well. I have it here on my notes as sort of a runner-up because I really liked that one.
Mm-hmm. It was just like relaxing. I would watch it again. I feel like you could take that and then curate sort of movie nights based off of your favorite
that's
chef.
That's a fun idea.
I know, right?
That's great. Yeah.
I think it just opened up a whole new world.
I won't sing.
Copyright. No. As for what I would make, I started out thinking that I was like, oh yeah, I could totally do those sticky buns because that'd be so easy to veganize. But then I ended up with, I will just totally make a box of mac and cheese.
Yes, absolutely. Are you going to make Claire's version then?
I would love to make Claire's version. I was watching it being like, oh my God, my mind is blown. I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's just like you do the thing over and over the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just see this and I'm like, why? Of course.
Eureka.
Yeah. Thanks, Claire. Her Royale with cheese.
That was cute.
All right, cool. Now I'm going to move over to shout outs. Shout outs. I definitely wanted to give a shout out to everybody, including Mrs. Casper, who wrote in and saying, like, nothing is going to live in your salt.
Yes, thank you for the pro tip.
And that was another thing that I was just like, oh, duh.
It was definitely a duh moment. Although I will say you don't want to get particulates in your salt though either, like little just like crumbs of actual food. So, I still think it doesn't hurt to wash your hands, but maybe you don't need to be as vigilant from a germ perspective. So
No,
yeah, thanks for pointing out how stupid we are. No, I'm kidding. I do appreciate it.
Thanks. Shout out to Arlo on Instagram, who was thinking about making the triple threat galette and who is also just chatting with us about the variety show, and they loved it. They wanted to know what we thought, so if you're listening, you just heard it. Shout out to Jaslyn for listening, of course.
Thanks to Jaslyn, who is the Rhoda to our show.
Yes, thank you. Shout out to Margaret for live tweeting our podcast again.
I love this.
It's so good. Oh, shout out to Mr. Thomas on Twitter for listening. He wanted to let us know that he grew up in an extended family and they put their names on their cups.
And our own co-host Amanda said that this is a practice in her family as well. So I guess we just didn't have the right voices on that episode.
Yeah. Thanks for writing into us.
Uh-huh.
And shout out to Lemon's Test Kitchen and Sunny from Book of Lies podcast for following along on our Instagram stories of LJ making the triple threat galette and saying that it was awesome and beautiful and gorgeous and just reacting. We love it.
I love them. I'm a fan of LJ's Instagram stories also.
That's it for shout outs.
Yeah, thanks for talking to us in general. I love hearing everyone's comments, love interacting, so thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for getting in touch with us on social media, sharing what you thought of our episodes. Please leave us a review if you can on Apple Podcasts. We would greatly appreciate it. We will shout you out, read it here, give you lots of love. So yeah, Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, please, and thank you.
Bon Appetit. Oh, no, wait.
Thanks for listening to Pod Appetit, a Bon Appetit fan cast.
We'd love to hear from you, so find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest at pod_appetit.
And on Facebook at Pod Appétit Podcast.
You can also email us at podappetitpodcast@gmail.com and find all of our episodes on our website, podappetitpodcast.com.
Until next time, the test kitchen is closed.
Hey there, it's Allison Carter. I'm the host of the podcast, Not Your Little Lady. Each episode features a woman living in the South outside of socially accepted norms. Listen and relate as these women share stories about obstacles they faced and how it feels to come out on the other side. We talk about things that pissed us off, the booze we like to drink, and historical women who have made a difference. Through all this, we explore the importance of women owning their past, present, and future while keeping it light and funny. You can find episodes, which are released every other Wednesday, on most podcast listening apps or at notyourlittlelady.com. Be sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at ladiesofnyll and on Facebook and Instagram at notyourlittlelady. Happy listening, y'all.